morning, happy Monday, PASW staff clients. We have our friends joining us. This is, well, you know what? This is the first time we're actually going to do television music scoring, because you saw the title was a little bit different, right? I mentioned this before a few months ago, and I just think it's time maybe to get into a score for television. Everybody's streaming, everyone's on Netflix, everybody has these streaming platforms where there's serial dramas, serial, true crime. There's a plethora of stuff. Probably never been more material than ever. Sometimes it's hard to sift through what is worth watching and all these things. But what I'd like to do is just and some of these shows that we'll be talking about, I haven't seen, because I can't spend all day watching 80 episodes of all different shows. So this is going to be new territory for me. But I did want to look at it from a music standpoint, because it's a music class, and from a music scoring standpoint of what the composer or the music supervisor has to work with. That's what we're doing, because when they write the music, they maybe have seen the pilot, but they don't get all the, they don't really know what they're doing. They have to work with the writer and the producer and the director and all that stuff. So they're creating scores, before it's being released. Now, in hindsight, we know what scores work. So we'll do some of these. It's not every week it's going to be a TV show, or maybe it might. I don't know. I'll see. If I get restless. Should we do it? So it's going to be basically the same assignment, but we're just going to look at some TV. So I just thought we'd start with maybe the most popular show on TV at all, ever, at least right now, is the show Stranger Things.
This is Hawkins. I know the worst thing that's ever happened here in the 4 years I've been working here. It was when an owl attacked Eleanor Gillespie's head because it thought that her hair was a nest. Nine out of 100 times, kid goes missing. The kid is with a parent or a relative.
What about the other time?
What?
You said 99 out of 100. What about the other time? The one!
I think she knows what happened to him.
And the girl?
She can't have gone far.
What the hell?
You know Will? Do you know where he is? Hiding. From who?
Maybe Will saw something that he shouldn't have.
Even if you haven't seen it, people know that. It should be called Strange Things, right? I don't know why it's Stranger, but that's just my incapacity to understand things. Science fiction, right? American, by the Duffer Brothers. First comes out in 2016, and it's huge. It's a huge sensation. I've seen a few episodes, but we're not here to analyze the story, the characters, and stuff like that. I'm not qualified to even do that. But but we'll talk about the opening scene. Created by identical twins. Duffer Brothers, they've been working since they were kids, and they work on all these projects together, and this is the one that really put them on the map. basically the story is supernatural, right? It's the 80s, takes place in the 80s, and we'll see that with the music in Indiana, right? So we're these kids, young group, you know, this kind of goes back to the Goonies, right? With the young group and kids in the 80s, but they come in contact with these supernatural forces and perhaps a secret government cover-up, and they search for these answers together, you know, along with these different characters, and it's very fun, you know. So when they pitched the series, Duffer Brothers really showed a lot of things from the 70s and 80s, Spielberg, Stephen King, all those kind of writers, and that's how they put it together. And they did that with electronic score, and they hired Michael Stein, Kyle Dixon, are the composers for this show. And so they got them to create a synthesized instruments. We'll talk about them. Synthesizer soundtrack would play against these. But if you think of the 70s and 80s, most film music, Spielberg, that's John Williams. That's classical music. That's not synthesized music. So they're using the kind of classic 80s, you know, with Goonies, with Spielberg, who, you know, but then they're using a different soundtrack. They're using the 80s, the music going on in the 80s. So they're not using orchestral score like John Williams. So they're using the kind of storytelling that Spielberg would use and Stephen King would use, but they're scoring it with you know, with electronic music, which was the main kind of music, which was the popular music in the 80s, right? So it's a little bit different. So Kyle Dixon, Michael Stein, they have electronic band, Survive, and so that's where the Duffer Brothers got them and hired them to do that. So if it's kind of science fiction kid-like with 80s music, that's kind of that's what we're talking about here. Let's just talk about the opening credits, because mostly probably with these TV scoring classes we're gonna look at the credits, because there's scoring in between TV series, of course, but the credits that's what brings you in. That tells you the tone. We've done this a lot with all of our film scores. The credits are maybe the most important, maybe the hardest for a composer or music supervisor, because that tells you the tone of, oh, it's this kind of movie, oh, it's this kind of TV series. Unconsciously it tells you. We you know, oh, it's scary, oh, it's science fiction, oh, it's a comedy. It tells you, you know, in a way that's really cool that our brain just figures out. Oh, okay, it's that, you know. Twilight Zone, oh, you know, that's not a kid's show. That's gonna be a little bit, you know, just the theme music to that just came to mind. That's gonna be scary, right? So let's take a look at the opening credits with the theme song to Stranger Things. Okay, so we're hearing electronic instrument. We're not hearing John Williams. We're not hearing classical music instruments. We're not hearing the conventional acoustic instruments. We're hearing electronics. So what they're using are analog synthesizers. So these go back to the 70s. This is used by Michael Jackson, Madonna. So the Prophet 5 is what they're using. They're also going to be using a Roland SH2. So these are the instruments we're hearing on that. And then the Mellotron. Mellotron goes back to 1963, so it's England. Probably the most famous example is Strawberry Fields. They use the Mellotron synthesizer. So these are synthesizers, right? Okay, so it's a haunting science fiction-like score, right? So when I was playing it, it's mostly just two chords. Let's just break it down music theory-wise. in the key of E minor, but it starts on C major 7. And they're arpeggios. Maybe we know arpeggios, but they're just broken chords. So if you play a chord C, E, G, that's not an arpeggio, but if you do C, E, G, C, E, G, G, if you go back and forth and you break apart the chord, that gives you kind of the water flowing feel, right? As opposed to just stagnant, sustained. That's not it. Arpeggio just goes back and forth, back and forth. That's what minimalism, but that goes back to Bach. Bach is, always outlining chords where it gives you rhythmic motion, right? And that's what the minimalists would do later too. So that's what this is doing. And then I found an example of just somebody playing it on the piano. So let's just take away all the fancy orchestration and synthesizers, instrumentation rather. Let's just listen to what it sounds like on the piano without anything. Very simple, 2 chords. There's like a passing D in between, but very simple. Frankly, not super interesting, right? I mean, what makes it interesting and fun? The retro synthesizers, right? Because if you just pare it down just on piano and put that piano to it, that wouldn't be that, I don't know, it just wouldn't be as good. Some of this sounds like Bach and Philip Glass to me, although it's way more repetitive because they don't really change chords at all. But that's not really their point either. That's so I think the retro synthesizers make this cool because let's take a look. Now we'll just take a look at just the titles and no music. So this is big. This is the opening titles. This is the very first season. Nobody has seen this show yet. So we need to come up with a tone. That tone that these composers came up with is perfect because it's dark and mysterious, minor mode. So we're gonna have to come up with an electronic synthesized score that's a little bit scary, that sounds science fiction like. So this isn't Western. We've been doing a lot of Westerns. This isn't classical music. You don't have to use those exact synthesizers, but it's electronic, and we've done electronic scores before, but electronic, moody, science fiction, dark, like scary minor mode score would be good. So let's see what you got, just send me some examples. So, and again, this is so important because this sets the mood for the show. So let's have fun with television scoring and get it by me Tuesday, Wednesday the latest. We'll see the results on Friday. We'll have a great week. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.